You cannot just walk away from this. Get out of the building!
I am leaving. We can discuss this tomorrow.
The valet's whistle cut through the morning hum of downtown Atlanta. Sharp, dismissive, final. Sir, that lot's for executives only. Jordan Miles paused, one hand on the sleek door of his electric Mercedes. His tailored suit caught the sunlight. Navy wool, subtle sheen, the kind only men in boardrooms wore. I am an executive, he said evenly. The valet, a young white man with mirrored shades, smirked. I said executives, tenants, you can unload deliveries at the back. A few feet away, two suited men laughed under the awning. Laughter that wasn't about him, but now included him. Jordan's chest tightened. The air grew thicker, sticky with embarrassment. He glanced up at the silver tower, his tower at least partially through the tech firm he had built from scratch. He had a 10 a.m. meeting on the 32nd floor to finalize a merger that would make him one of the youngest black CEOs in state history. But at that moment, he was invisible, or worse, presumed less. He could feel eyes on him. The receptionist's half-hidden smirk, the guard's slow shift of posture, the pause in a stranger's step, a tableau of quiet judgment. Jordan reached into his pocket, not for his wallet, not for ID, but for his phone. His reflection glared back from the black screen, trembling. Get the manager, he said, voice low, trembling with restraint. The valet tilted his head. You can call whoever you want, sir, but you're not parking here. A camera flash blinked from somewhere behind him, and Jordan realized this moment would not stay private. Not this time. The morning sun bounced off mirrored glass, slicing through the crisp Atlanta air. Jordan Miles adjusted his tie, exhaled, and eased his Mercedes into the parking lane beside the marble steps of Haven Tower. He had rehearsed this day in his head for weeks. The final merger meeting, a signature that would cement his company's rise. He was 5 minutes early. A rare luxury. As he pulled toward the executive parking only sign, a whistle pierced the hum of engines. Sir, you can't park there, the valet called, jogging over. Jordan rolled down the window. Why not? That's reserved for the tenants, CEOs, directors, board members. Jordan's lips curved, humorless. And what exactly do you think I am? The valet hesitated, eyeing the car, then Jordan, dark skin, crisp haircut, gold cufflinks gleaming. Deliveries use the back entrance, he said finally. For a moment, silence. Jordan could hear his own pulse, the slow, heavy thud of disbelief giving way to something hotter. I'm not delivering, he said softly. I own one of the companies in this building. The valet's smirk was small, practiced. Of course, sir. Just following policy. Policy. Jordan repeated like it was a foreign word. Behind them, a white Tesla slid into the reserved spot he'd been approaching. The driver, a young executive, flashed his badge through the windshield. The valet waved him through with a grin. Jordan stepped out of the car. What's your name? Evan. Well, Evan, he said, voice low but steady, you just made a very expensive assumption. Evan crossed his arms. Sir, please don't make this difficult. Security's already watching. Jordan turned and saw the guard by the glass door's hand hovering near his radio. His throat tightened. The entire world shrank to that instant. The clicking heels of passers-by, the whisper of air conditioning vents, the weight of eyes that refused to meet his. He opened his phone camera, lifted it slightly. Let's be clear, he said. You're denying me access to park in my own company's lot? Evan shifted. Sir, I'm just... Say it, Jordan interrupted, voice shaking now. Say why? Because you're not... Evan caught himself, mouth snapping shut. Not what? Silence. A pair of executives passing by slowed. One of them whispered, That the guy from Horizon Tech? Yeah, the other murmured. He's making a scene. The word stung sharper than any slur. Jordan's assistant, Lena, appeared from the lobby, phone in hand. Mr. Miles, they told me you were here. She looked between them, face tightening as she understood. Mr. Miles? Evan repeated, blinking. Jordan met his gaze. That's right, Mr. Miles, CEO of Horizon Technologies. The company that rents 2 full floors in this building. Evan paled. I didn't know. You didn't ask. The doors opened. The building manager hurried out, smile tight as a noose. Mr. Miles, so sorry. Misunderstanding, I assure you. Of course, Jordan said, pocketing his phone. Misunderstandings always sound the same. Behind him, someone's camera phone flashed. Then another. He walked past them, each step deliberate, pulse roaring in his ears. Inside, the marble lobby gleamed like nothing had happened. The receptionist smiled too quickly, offered bottled water, acted like the morning hadn't fractured something fundamental. Jordan stared at his reflection in the glass elevator door, his calm face, his clenched jaw, and whispered to himself, "Never again." The elevator doors slid shut, sealing the vow inside. The elevator opened to glass, chrome, and a silence that hummed with importance. Jordan stepped out, posture straight despite the residual burn of humiliation still hot beneath his skin. The Horizon Technologies logo glowed faintly on the frosted wall, his company, his creation, and yet this floor didn't feel like his anymore. Inside the conference room, a dozen faces turned. Some smiled too quickly. Others didn't at all. "Jordan." "Glad you could make it," said Leonard Finch, Horizon's largest investor. Tall, silver-haired, expensive. His tone hovered between politeness and possession. "Rough morning?" Jordan's jaw tightened. "Just parking trouble," he said evenly, sliding into his seat. Lena, already beside him with the merger files, whispered, "The clip's already online." He froze. "How bad?" "It's trending. Parking while black." He almost laughed, bitterly. "Of course it is." Across the table, Leonard cleared his throat. "Before we begin, I think we should address the optics." Jordan's gaze snapped to him. "Optics?" "The video," Leonard said, lifting his hands. "People might misinterpret the situation. It could look like you were confrontational." Jordan leaned forward. "You mean being denied access to my own company's parking lot looks bad for me?" A low murmur rippled around the room. "Jordan," said Karen Wu, Horizon's legal counsel. "Leonard's only suggesting damage control. We don't want investors thinking the company is run by a man who won't tolerate discrimination," Jordan finished. "God forbid," Leonard's smile faltered. "Let's not make this personal." "It was personal," Jordan said softly, until someone hit record. The room fell silent. The faint whir of the air vents filled the gap. Finally, Samuel Price, the CFO, spoke, cautious, calculated. "Jordan, we're with you. But you know how markets react to controversy. Maybe we issue a brief statement, something neutral. Horizon condemns all forms of discrimination but values peaceful resolution." Something like that. Jordan's fingers drummed on the polished table. "Peaceful resolution," he repeated, tasting the phrase like it was ash. "Do you hear yourselves?" Karen sighed. "You're angry, I get it. But this merger, he cut in, isn't happening because of their charity. It's happening because of what we built." He turned toward the panoramic window, Atlanta sprawling below, sunlight cutting across the glass skyline. "When I started Horizon, I didn't have investors. I had a laptop and a rented basement. People laughed when I said I'd compete with national firms. Now those same people need my code, my patents, my people." He turned back, voice hardening. "So no, I'm not issuing a neutral statement. I'm done being polite about people's prejudice." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Leonard leaned forward, clasping his hands. "Jordan, I admire your passion. But leadership requires restraint. You're in a powerful position now. You represent us. Don't let emotions cloud judgment." Jordan met his gaze. "You mean don't make white investors uncomfortable?" Leonard stiffened. A quiet gasp came from the far end of the table. Lena bit her lip to hide a smile. "Let's take 5, Karen interjected quickly, standing. Everyone stretch your legs, chairs scraped. Conversation splintered into whispers. Jordan remained seated, staring at the table's reflection. Fractured faces, partial truths. Lena leaned closer. "They're scared," she murmured. "Not of the merger, and of you. You're not supposed to fight back?" Jordan rubbed his temples. "Then maybe it's time to change the rules." "Change how?" He looked up, eyes sharp. "Buy them out," she blinked. "You mean?" "I mean, I'm done asking for respect." When the break ended, the mood had shifted. Jordan's calm had become a weapon. As everyone settled, he spoke first. "Let's return to business. I've reviewed the acquisition terms. Finch Capital's share proposal undervalues Horizon's intellectual property by 40%. Leonard blinked. "That's an aggressive interpretation." Jordan smiled without humor. "No, it's math." He slid a folder across the table. Revised terms. Effective today, Karen frowned. Jordan, that would make you the majority shareholder. Exactly, Jordan said. The company should be led by the people who built it, not the ones who doubted it. A tense beat. Leonard's mask cracked. You can't be serious. We made Horizon possible. Jordan's reply was quiet, surgical. You financed what I already made possible. Silence spread like frost. Gentlemen, ladies, Jordan continued, this isn't anger. It's accountability. You can support leadership that reflects your values. Or you can cash out. Either way, I'm done negotiating my dignity. The words hung there, cold, final. No one spoke for a long moment. Then Leonard chuckled, brittle, performative. Well, that's quite the power play, Jordan. But you'll find ownership isn't as simple as sentiment. Neither is respect, Jordan said. He gathered his papers, nodded to Lena, and left the room. Outside, the hallway felt lighter, cleaner somehow. He pressed the elevator button, chest still tight but breathing steadier. Down below, his phone buzzed again. The video had passed 200,000 views. Headlines multiplied. Black CEO confronts racist policy in viral clip. For the first time that morning, Jordan smiled, and not in triumph but recognition. They had underestimated the wrong man, and he was just getting started. By noon, Jordan's name was everywhere. Parking while black trended across 3 platforms. News anchors rehearsed his humiliation between cheerful weather reports. Some clips blurred his face. Others zoomed in mercilessly. The valet's smirk became a meme. Lena's phone hadn't stopped buzzing. CNN wants a statement. Fox too. Oh, and the Atlanta Tribune wants to humanize the moment. Jordan leaned against his office window, arms crossed. Humanize, he echoed. Was I not human before? She sighed. They mean sympathetic, he shook his head. They mean profitable. Across the room, his PR advisor, Malcolm Rivers, scrolled through a tablet, expression unreadable. You're getting support, a lot of it. Celebrities reposted, activists are mobilizing. But the hate's coming too. You're being called race baiter CEO on some forums. Jordan smirked faintly. That didn't take long. Malcolm looked up. We need to decide what you want this to be. A story about outrage. Or about transformation. Jordan turned from the window. You think I planned this? No, Malcolm said. But the world just handed you a microphone. If you don't define the message, someone else will. Jordan's gaze hardened. Then let's define it. Minutes later, a conference call connected him to the board. Leonard's voice came through first, measured, almost fatherly. Jordan, the video's creating volatility. Shareholders are nervous. Maybe it's best if we let things cool down. I'm not hiding, Jordan replied. No one's asking you to hide, Leonard said smoothly. We're just asking you to be strategic. Emotions fade. Business remains. Jordan could almost see his smirk through the speaker. Business built on silence never lasts, he said. Karen chimed in. He's right about one thing, markets move on perception. The merger committee's questioning whether you can stay objective under media pressure. He let out a humorless laugh. So they questioned my composure after I was humiliated? Optics matter, Leonard said again. I've heard that word enough today, Jordan snapped, a pause. Static hummed through the line. Then Samuel, ever diplomatic, spoke up. Maybe we spin it differently. Jordan, if you frame this as a leadership story, resilience, professionalism under pressure, you win public sympathy and protect the company. Jordan exhaled slowly. You mean make them comfortable again? No one replied. He ended the call. Later that evening, Horizon's lobby looked different. A small crowd had gathered outside. Local reporters, a few supporters holding phones aloft. As Jordan and Lena stepped through the glass doors, someone shouted, Mr. Miles! Any comment on being profiled? He stopped, the microphones thrust toward him like weapons. Yes, he said quietly. It's not the first time. Murmurs rippled, he continued, voice firm but steady. But it'll be the last time I stay silent. What happened wasn't a misunderstanding, it was a mirror. And a lot of people didn't like what they saw. Cameras flashed. Are you calling the company racist? One reporter pressed. I'm saying, Jordan replied, that racism hides behind policies, not just words. He turned, leaving the sentence hanging, sharp enough to echo across headlines by morning. In the elevator, Lena exhaled. You realize that'll blow up even more, right? I'm counting on it, he said, her eyes widened. You're using this, he gave a thin smile. If they want to make me a story, then I'll choose the ending. The elevator chimed softly. When they reached his office again, Malcolm was waiting with a folder. I pulled property ownership records for Haven Tower, he said, sliding it across the table. Jordan frowned. Why? Because I think you'll find this interesting. He flipped through the pages, names, holdings, shell corporations. Then his gaze froze. At the bottom, Finch Holdings LLC. He looked up, startled. Leonard owns the building? Indirectly, Malcolm said. Through 2 intermediaries. The same Leonard who told you to stay calm. The pieces clicked with an almost audible snap. The valet's certainty. The management's silence. Leonard's sudden insistence on neutrality. Jordan's pulse quickened. He set it up. Lena blinked. You mean the whole... He knew I'd be humiliated before walking into that meeting. Control the narrative, control the man. Malcolm nodded grimly. Classic power move. They underestimate you, then box you in. Jordan closed the folder slowly. Then it's time to break the box. That night, as city lights glimmered against the glass, he stood alone in his office. The video still played muted on a news site in the corner of his screen, looping endlessly, like a wound that refused to heal. Outside, protesters chanted faintly. Distant but growing, he dialed a number. Malcolm, he said, I want to know who owns every share of Finch Holdings. Why? Malcolm asked. Because tomorrow, Jordan said, voice cold and calm, I'm going to start buying. He ended the call, staring at his reflection in the glass, the city's lights flickering behind his silhouette. For the first time since that morning, his humiliation felt like fuel. The world thought it was watching his downfall. They were about to witness his beginning. The next morning, the office was quieter than usual, a deceptive calm that hummed beneath Horizon's glass walls. Jordan's face had become both symbol and spectacle. Even the interns avoided eye contact, uncertain whether to offer sympathy or space. He didn't need either. He needed strategy. Updates? He asked, stepping into the conference room where Lena and Malcolm waited. Malcolm slid a tablet across the table. Preliminary ownership breakdown of Finch Holdings. Leonard controls 40% directly. The rest, a tangle of subsidiaries. Offshore accounts, silent partners, shell firms. Jordan frowned. Can we trace them? Working on it. But here's the kicker. One of the management subsidiaries that runs Haven Tower's operations. It's registered under Harborline Properties. Jordan looked up. That name's familiar. It should be, Malcolm said. They're part of a group that's been quietly buying minority-owned tech spaces across the state, then raising rent until those businesses fold, Lena muttered. That's not strategy. That's predation, Jordan's jaw tightened. And Leonard's connected? Through a trust, Malcolm confirmed. It's a spider web, but the threads lead back to him. Jordan exhaled slowly, the pieces forming a map in his mind. So he profits when people like me lose their footing. Malcolm nodded. And he calls it market efficiency. Jordan leaned back, staring at the ceiling. He's been smiling in my meetings while bleeding my community dry. Lena's voice trembled with controlled anger. What do we do? Jordan's eyes hardened. We buy the web before it strangles anyone else. That afternoon, Jordan met his attorney, Priya Das, at a quiet downtown cafe. She was sharp, composed, the kind of woman who read every clause twice before breathing. Leonard Finch owns Finch Holdings, Jordan said, sliding her the folder. He's using it to push out black-owned firms under the guise of redevelopment. I want to take control of that company. Priya raised an eyebrow. You want to buy the holding company that owns your office building? Not want, Jordan said. Need. She flipped through the papers, scanning the fine print. That would require substantial capital. They'll never sell directly to you once they realize who's behind the purchase. I don't intend to tell them, he replied. She looked up, a small smile tugging at her lips. A shadow acquisition? Call it poetic balance, he said. Leonard uses hidden hands. So will I. Priya leaned forward. You realize this could get messy. Public companies have watchdogs. If this leaks, they'll call it retaliation. Jordan's voice softened. Let them call it what they want. I call it justice. Later that night, the city glowed beneath the rain. Neon reflections running like liquid color across wet streets. Jordan sat in his penthouse office, staring out at the tower that had humiliated him days earlier. The lights on its facade blinked faintly like an arrogant pulse. Lena entered quietly with 2 mugs of coffee. "You've been at this all night." He didn't turn. "Every time I close my eyes, I see that valet's face. The smug certainty. The unspoken rule that I didn't belong." She set the mug beside him. "You do belong. You just have to remind them." He finally looked at her. "You think that's what this is? Reminding them?" She hesitated. "Isn't it?" He leaned back, eyes distant. "When I was a kid, my father worked 30 years at a company that never promoted him. Said they weren't ready for a face like his in upper management. He died believing that patients would change their minds. It never did. So no, Lena, this isn't a reminder. It's reclamation." Her throat tightened. "You sound like a man preparing for war." He gave a faint smile. "That's because I am." Over the next days, the plan unfolded quietly. Shell companies began acquiring small shares of Finch Holdings. Priya coordinated silent investors, allies who owed Jordan favors or believed in his cause. Each transaction was legal, invisible in the noise of corporate churn. But Leonard noticed the movement. At a Friday board meeting, he cornered Jordan in the hallway. "Jordan," he said with his trademark grin, "mind if we talk privately?" Jordan turned, calm but alert. "Of course." Leonard's tone shifted, smooth but sharp. "There's chatter that someone's making aggressive moves toward Finch Holdings. Sounds like you've got some ambitious friends." Jordan met his gaze. "The market's full of ambition," Leonard chuckled. "Just be careful. Ambition can look a lot like revenge if you squint." "Only to those with something to fear," Jordan replied. Leonard's eyes glinted. "You really think you can play this game with me, son?" The word son landed like a slap. Jordan didn't flinch. "I'm not your son, and this isn't a game." Leonard's smile thinned. "You'll learn soon enough. Some towers are built too high to climb." Jordan stepped closer, voice low. "Then I'll buy the ground under them." The silence that followed was razor thin. Leonard's jaw flexed. Then he patted Jordan's shoulder, a gesture half condescension, half warning. "Good luck," he said softly. "You'll need it." Jordan watched him walk away, heart pounding but steady. He wasn't sure if Leonard had just threatened him or admired him. Maybe both. Either way, the war had officially begun. That night, when Lena called to check in, Jordan answered on the first ring. "You all right?" she asked. He looked out the window again, at the tower glowing in the distance, unaware it was already being bought piece by piece. "I'm fine," he said. "He thinks he owns the view. He doesn't realize I'm already inside the walls." Lena smiled faintly through the phone. "Then what's next?" Jordan's voice was quiet, resolute. "Next," he said, "we take the heart of his empire and make him watch it beat for someone else." Sleep had become a stranger. Jordan sat at his kitchen counter at 2:14 a.m., eyes burning from the laptop's glow. Stock movements danced across the screen, percentages, holdings, coded names. Each click drew him deeper into the war he'd started. The sound of keys jingling broke his trance. "Jordan?" It was Maya, her voice soft, tentative. She stood in the doorway, still in her nursing scrubs, exhaustion written across her face. "You're still working?" she asked. He closed the laptop halfway. "Couldn't sleep." "You haven't slept in 3 days." "I'm close to something," he murmured. "Another holding transfer went through tonight. We're at 22% ownership of Finch Holdings." Maya leaned against the counter. "And how much of you is left?" He looked up, confused. She crossed her arms. "You don't talk. You don't eat. You're running yourself into the ground for revenge." "This isn't revenge." "Then what is it?" she pressed. He hesitated. "Justice," she shook her head. "Justice shouldn't cost your peace." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Maya, you didn't see the way they looked at me that morning. Like I didn't belong in my own success. Like everything I'd built meant nothing." "I did see," she said quietly. "The whole world did. But fighting hate with obsession doesn't heal you. It just feeds them." Her voice softened. "You've already won, Jordan. You exposed them. People respect you." "That's not enough," he whispered. "Then what is?" He stared past her at the rain sliding down the window. "Making sure no one else ever has to stand there like I did." "That's what's enough." She sighed, the fight draining out of her. "And when it's over? What's left of you to stand?" Jordan didn't answer. The next day at Horizon, Lena found him pacing. "You didn't sleep again, did you?" He ignored the question. Leonard's tightening control. He's using shell accounts to buy back shares. We need faster funding. I reached out to 2 more allies, she said. They're in private equity from Chicago. They believe in your cause. Good, he said absently. We move before he does. Jordan, she said carefully, you're burning at both ends. You need to breathe. He looked at her, a faint smile ghosting his lips. You sound like Maya. She's right, Lena said. You're turning this into a crusade. He paused. You ever watch your father get called boy by a man half his age? Ever watch him smile through it because he needed that paycheck? Lena swallowed hard. No, I have, he said softly. And every time someone disrespects me, I see him standing there, swallowing it, pretending it didn't break him. Silence settled, heavy as glass. Lena reached out, resting a hand on his arm. You're not your father, Jordan. He met her eyes. Maybe not, but I'm finishing what he couldn't. That evening, Maya waited in the doorway when he came home. Dinner's cold, she said gently. I'm sorry, he murmured. You said that yesterday. She looked at him, really looked, the faint tremor in his hands, the dark circles beneath his eyes, the fire that never dimmed. You're disappearing, Jordan, he exhaled. You knew what you signed up for. I signed up for you, she said. Not the ghost of a man chasing power just to prove he's worthy of it. Her voice cracked. You already were. He turned away, staring at the city lights through the window. They don't see that. Then stop trying to make them, she whispered. You can't change every bigot by buying their buildings. He didn't move. Do you even love me anymore? She asked. The question struck like a blade. Maya, he began. Don't, she said, tears glinting. If you have to think about it, that's already an answer. He turned then, pain raw on his face. I do love you, but I can't stop now, not when I'm this close. She nodded slowly as if sealing a wound she couldn't close. Then I'll stop for both of us. She picked up her bag, walked to the door and paused. I hope you find peace in what you win. The door clicked softly behind her. Hours later, Jordan sat alone on the couch. The silence was immense, not peaceful but suffocating. He looked at the folder on the table. Finch Holdings Acquisition Plan, Phase 2. His hands trembled. For the first time in weeks, he wondered if victory was worth the pieces of himself he was trading away. But then his phone buzzed. A message from Malcolm. Leonard just moved 5% of shares to offshore escrow. We can strike tomorrow. Jordan stared at it for a long moment. Then he whispered, voice hollow but certain. Tomorrow it is. Rain slicked the streets outside Finch Tower, neon lights glinting in every puddle. Jordan watched from across the road, coat collar up, eyes fixed on the building that once refused him a parking spot. It was 5:43 a.m. The city was still asleep, except for those about to witness a quiet war. Are you sure about this? Lena's voice came through his earpiece, low and uncertain. Yes, Jordan said. Everything's ready. Malcolm's moving the final funds. By noon, we'll hold majority shares. And Leonard? Still thinks he's untouchable, Jordan muttered. Let's remind him what gravity feels like. He crossed the street, entered the building, and headed straight for the executive floor. The guard at the desk blinked in surprise. Mr. Finch isn't expecting visitors yet, he said. Jordan gave a small, tight smile. He will be. The elevator opened on the top floor, and all glass and arrogance. Leonard stood near his window talking on the phone. His silver hair gleamed under the morning light. When he saw Jordan, his face stiffened. Make it quick, Leonard said into the receiver, then hung up. You again. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Jordan stepped closer. You might want to sit down, Leonard chuckled. What is this, another one of your delusions of grandeur? Finch Holdings, Jordan said evenly. As of 10 minutes ago, my company, Horizon Equity, owns 51% of it. The silence that followed was a living thing. Leonard blinked. Once. Twice. That's impossible. Jordan slid a folder across the table. Filed with the SEC this morning, verified. Check your inbox. Leonard's fingers trembled slightly as he opened his laptop. His confident smirk began to fade. He looked up, voice tight. You used my own shell companies against me. Jordan's tone was calm, almost kind. No. I used what you underestimated. A man you thought you could humiliate and walk away from. Leonard stood abruptly, slamming the laptop shut. You think you can just walk in here and take everything I built? I didn't take it, Jordan said softly. I bought it fairly legally, just like you told me to earn my place. Leonard's face twisted. This is revenge. Jordan met his gaze. This is consequence. The board meeting that followed at 9 a.m. was chaos in tailored suits. Cameras from local outlets lined the hallway, tipped off anonymously the night before. Leonard entered late, pale but composed. This meeting is adjourned until we verify these ridiculous claims, he snapped. Jordan's voice cut through the noise. The verification is complete. The documents are in your email, Mr. Finch. As majority shareholder, I'm calling this session to order. The murmurs swelled. One of the directors, a thin woman with a gold pin, leaned forward. Mr. Brooks, are you saying you intend to assume CEO duties? Yes, Jordan said. Effective immediately. Leonard laughed, brittle, hollow. You think anyone in this room will follow you? They know who you are. Jordan held his gaze. A man you denied a parking spot to. A man you mocked on security footage that went viral. And still I'm the one standing here holding the future of this company. A few heads turned his way. Something in the room shifted. Leonard's jaw tightened. This is a mistake. You don't have the experience to run a firm like this. Jordan smiled faintly. Then it's a good thing I'm hiring people who do. People who were never given a chance here. He handed a list across the table. Names of black and minority executives who'd been passed over for years. Lena, standing at the door, gave him a quiet nod. Leonard looked around, realizing the cameras were still rolling outside. Turn those damn things off, he barked. Jordan didn't flinch. Let them stay. Transparency looks good on us. An hour later, Leonard stormed into his office. You won't get away with this, he hissed. You think buying me out will change anything? The system doesn't bend for you, son. Jordan's eyes darkened. Then I'll rebuild the system piece by piece until it does. Leonard sneered. You'll never be one of us. Jordan stepped forward, voice quiet but edged with steel. That's the difference, Leonard. I never wanted to be. When the news broke that afternoon, black entrepreneur acquires Finch Tower. After viral racism incident, social media erupted. Commentators debated. Politicians issued statements and protesters held signs outside the building. Respect is not for sale. It's earned. Inside his new office, the same one Leonard had stood in that morning, Jordan looked out the window. The city below shimmered with rain and possibility. But when he reached for his phone, his lock screen still showed a photo of Maya, smiling. Gone. He stared at it for a long time. Lena entered quietly. You did it, she said. Yeah, he murmured. I did. You don't sound happy, he exhaled slowly. Because I don't know what winning costs until it's over. She hesitated, then said softly, sometimes justice hurts before it heals. He nodded, and sometimes healing feels like loss. He turned back to the window. The rain had stopped. But the reflection staring back at him didn't look like victory. It looked like consequence. The storm didn't end when Jordan took the tower. It just changed direction. By Monday morning, the media frenzy had split in two. Half hailed him as a symbol of poetic justice, the man who turned humiliation into power. The other half painted him as a ruthless opportunist, a headline commodity. Black CEO weaponizes woke capital. Jordan sat in the conference room, scrolling through news feeds, each headline heavier than the last. Lena entered, tablet in hand. The board's panicking. The investors from Delaware are threatening to pull their funding. Because of the press? He asked. Because Leonard's been making calls all weekend. He's claiming you forced him out illegally. Jordan looked up sharply. He signed the agreement himself. Doesn't matter, she said. He's spinning it. Says you used social media intimidation to coerce him. He's framing it as reverse discrimination. He leaned back, jaw tight. He's really going to play that card. He's desperate, Lena said. And the system still listens to his voice louder than yours. By noon, the SEC inquiry notice arrived. Thin white envelope, thick with threat. Jordan read it twice, then tossed it onto the table. He filed a complaint. Malcolm whistled low. He's coming for your legitimacy. Jordan's tone stayed calm, but his pulse roared. We'll fight it, transparency, full audit. Lena frowned. They won't care about the facts, Jordan. They care about perception. He rubbed his temples. Then we changed the perception. The next day, Leonard appeared on a live business broadcast. Smooth voice, sympathetic smile. I made mistakes, Leonard said to the anchor, but I also believe in merit. What we're seeing here isn't progress. It's vengeance disguised as equality. The interviewer leaned in. Are you saying you were targeted because you're white? Leonard nodded solemnly. I'm saying the narrative has turned upside down. Fairness doesn't mean punishment. Jordan watched the interview in silence, the anchor's polite nods, the online applause. Lena muttered under her breath, he's turning himself into the victim. Jordan's voice was quiet, and they're letting him. That evening his phone buzzed, Maya's name. He hesitated before answering Jordan. Her voice was calm. Tired? I saw the news, she said. Of course you did, he replied. You're being dragged through the mud. I can handle it. Can you? She asked gently. Because the man I loved used to care about building something, not just burning it all down. He closed his eyes. Maya, I didn't start this. No, she said. But maybe you forgot when to stop. He swallowed hard. He deserves to fall. Then let him, she whispered. But don't fall with him. Click. The line went dead. The next morning, Lena burst into his office, face pale. Leonard's been arrested. Jordan froze. What? Corporate fraud. Offshore accounts. Tax evasion. Whistleblower tipped them off last night. He blinked, stunned. Whistleblower. She slid her phone across the desk. Anonymous report. But guess what? The email's metadata traces back to your company's network. Jordan stared at her. You think I... No, Lena said quickly. But someone inside did. Maybe Malcolm. Maybe one of the analysts. Doesn't matter. It looks like you orchestrated the whole thing. Within hours, the story hit every outlet. Rogue CEO topples rival using insider leak. Stock prices dipped. Calls flooded in. Jordan's assistant stood by the door whispering, There's a journalist waiting downstairs. Says they want your side. He sighed. There's no side they'll believe. That evening, he found Leonard sitting in the police transport bay, handcuffed, exhausted, still somehow smirking. Came to gloat? Leonard rasped. No, Jordan said. To see what's left. Leonard chuckled bitterly. You think this is justice? I may rot, but they'll still never call you sir. Jordan's expression didn't change. Maybe not. But they'll remember what happens when they underestimate us, Leonard sneered. Enjoy your tower, Brooks. It's already burning. The officer pulled him toward the van, doors slamming shut with finality. Later that night, Jordan stood in the empty lobby of Finch Tower, his tower now. The marble floors reflected fluorescent light like cold water. Lena approached quietly. He's gone. Yeah, Jordan said softly. But he was right about one thing. What's that? He looked up at the name etched above the elevator doors. Finch Tower. They'll never see me as one of them. No matter how high I climb, Lena followed his gaze. Then stop climbing their tower. Build your own. He turned to her, the faintest smile tugging his lips. You sound like my father. Maybe he was right too. He exhaled long and heavy. Maybe this isn't the collapse. Maybe it's the start. She looked at him, brow furrowed. Of what? He glanced toward the dark windows, the city glowing beyond. Of something that doesn't need their permission to exist. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, not destruction, but renewal. And for the first time since that morning in the parking lot, Jordan felt the air shift, lighter, uncertain, alive. He wasn't free yet, but he was finally facing the right direction. 6 months later, the sun rose over downtown like it was forgiving something. The sign outside Finch Tower was gone. In its place, a new one glimmered in brushed steel. The Brooks Center for Equity and Innovation. The morning air buzzed with construction sounds, drills, footsteps, voices shouting blueprints. Jordan stood at the curb, coffee in hand, watching workers install the last letters of his family name. Never thought I'd see it, Malcolm said, stepping beside him. From a denied parking spot to your name on the building. Jordan smiled faintly. Still feels strange. Malcolm chuckled. You earned strange. Jordan's gaze softened. No, we built it. Inside, the lobby had transformed. Gone were the marble floors and golden plaques celebrating old power. Now, sunlight spilled over open co-working spaces, portraits of community leaders and a plaque that read, dedicated to those who were told they didn't belong. Lena walked beside him, holding a folder. Partnership proposals from the university and 2 minority business incubators. They want to move in this fall. Good, he said. This place isn't about me. It's about opportunity and for the people they overlooked. She hesitated. And what about you? He looked up at the skylight. I'm still figuring that out. A familiar voice came from behind. Still making speeches, huh? Jordan turned. Maya stood near the doorway, holding a small bouquet of lilies. He froze. Maya, she smiled softly. I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd see what you've done with the place. He nodded slowly. It's different now. I can see that, she said, looking around. It doesn't feel like a tower anymore. That's the idea, he replied. They stood in silence for a moment, the hum of construction filling the spaces. Between old words, you look tired, she said gently. Different. Kinda tired, he admitted. The kind that feels earned, she nodded. I saw what you did with the scholarship fund. Your father would have been proud. His throat tightened. He used to say dignity was more expensive than gold. I guess I finally understood what he meant. She smiled faintly. Maybe now you can rest. Maybe, he said. You staying for the opening ceremony? I might, she said, glancing at the stage being set up. If I can find a place to park. They both laughed softly, a sound that felt like healing. Later, the ceremony began. Cameras clicked, the crowd buzzing, reporters, community leaders, students, workers. Jordan stepped to the podium, microphone humming. 6 months ago, he began. This building was a symbol of exclusion, a place where power decided who belonged. He paused, scanning the faces before him. Today it's something else. Not perfect, but open. A space where ideas matter more than surnames and respect doesn't need permission. Applause rippled through the crowd. He continued, voice steady. This isn't a victory speech. Because victory suggests the fight is over. It's not. This, he gestured around, is a beginning. He looked up, eyes finding Maya in the crowd. Her smile was small but real. Every brick in this place, he said quietly, was paid for with pain and built with purpose. If you've ever been told you're not enough, this building says otherwise. The crowd erupted. Cameras flashed, but Jordan didn't see them. He saw his father, standing proud, smiling from somewhere beyond the noise. After the crowd thinned, Lena found him on the rooftop terrace overlooking the skyline. Speech was perfect, she said. He chuckled. I kept it under 10 minutes, miracle. She smiled. So, what now? He leaned on the railing. Now, I stop reacting and start creating. Meaning? Meaning I've spent my whole life fighting to be seen by their world. It's time to build one of our own. Lena nodded slowly. You think they'll ever accept that? He looked out at the city. Sunlight glinting off glass towers, cranes rising like new beginnings. They don't have to, he said. Acceptance isn't the goal. Change is. As he turned to leave, a gust of wind caught the new sign below, the Brooks Center gleaming like a promise. Maya stood at the exit, waiting. Heading out? She asked. For now, he said. Work never really ends, she handed him one of the lilies. Then at least take this. For peace. He smiled, eyes soft. Maybe I'll finally learn what that feels like. They walked out together, sunlight spilling over the steps. Behind them, the tower stood tall, not as a monument to power, but as a testament to perseverance. Because justice wasn't something Jordan took. It was something he built. 3 years later, the morning light spilled through wide glass windows, painting the floor of the Brooks Center in gold. Outside, the skyline hummed. Cranes, sirens, a city that never truly stopped rebuilding itself. Jordan stood at the edge of the atrium, watching a group of students file past. Some wore backpacks marked Brooks Scholars. Others carried tablets and notebooks, their laughter echoing through the space where silence once ruled. He smiled faintly. They didn't know the story, at least not all of it. They didn't know that once he'd been turned away in this very lobby, told there was no space for him here. Now the same lobby hosted open hours every Friday, no appointments needed. Anyone could walk in, pitch an idea, or ask for mentorship. Mr. Brooks? A voice interrupted. He turned. A young intern, maybe 22, stood holding a tablet. There's a reporter from Business World here to see you. She said she's doing a follow-up piece, and 5 years after the Finch acquisition. Jordan hesitated, then nodded. Send her in. A woman in a gray suit entered, confident but respectful. Mr. Brooks, it's good to finally meet in person. Likewise, he said, shaking her hand. She gestured toward the lobby. This place is remarkable. But tell me, after everything, after the controversy, the lawsuits, the investigations, was it worth it? Jordan smiled slowly. That depends on what you measure worth by. She leaned forward, recording. Then how do you measure it? He looked around the atrium. By who's standing in it now? By who has a key? After the interview, Jordan walked the corridors alone. Photographs lined the walls. Faces of the first employees he'd hired, students he'd sponsored, community leaders who'd built something new here. Then he stopped at one photo in particular, his father's. It was black and white. Candid, the older man smiling beside an old truck, sleeves rolled up, grease on his hands. Jordan touched the frame lightly. We made it, Pop. Behind him, footsteps, Maya's voice. You still talk to him? He turned, smiling. Every day. She walked up beside him. They hadn't remarried, but something deeper had returned. A quiet friendship, unspoken understanding. He'd be proud, she said. I hope so. You built more than a company, Jordan. He chuckled. Sometimes I think it built me, she smiled. Funny thing about rebuilding, it doesn't start from the top down. It starts from the ground. He looked at her, eyes warm. That's why it lasts. Later that afternoon, a group of teenagers from a local high school gathered in the main hall for an open mentorship session. One boy raised his hand. Mr. Brooks, is it true what they say? That you once bought the building because someone told you to move your car? Laughter rippled through the room. Jordan smiled. Yeah, that part's true. What did you say to them afterward? He paused, thinking. At the time, nothing. I let my silence do the talking. The students leaned forward, listening. But, he continued, here's what I wish I'd said. You can't buy respect. You build it, brick by brick, act by act. And if the world won't give you a place to stand, you make one. The room went quiet. Then applause. Jordan nodded toward the crowd. Now go make your place. That evening, when the center had emptied and the city lights flickered on, Jordan stepped out onto the rooftop terrace. The skyline stretched endless, glowing like opportunity itself. Lena joined him, a tablet in her hands. You know, she said, smiling, we're opening another center in Atlanta next spring. He turned, eyebrows raised. Really? Your legacy's multiplying, he chuckled softly. Legacy's just a word. I'm more interested in momentum, she nodded. You've got both. Below them, traffic hummed, steady and alive. The world still wasn't perfect. The news still carried stories of injustice, of systems still failing. But change no longer felt impossible. It felt inevitable. Jordan took a deep breath, the city air sharp and clean. You ever think about that day? Lena asked quietly. The parking lot, the guard, the look on their faces. He smiled. Every morning. It reminds me why I walk in through the front door. The two of them stood in silence as the city glowed beneath them. A skyline reborn. For Jordan Brooks, power was never about ownership anymore. It was about access. And for the first time in his life, the view from the ground looked better than the view from the top.